Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I believe that combating this has to be a comprehensive approach, and whole government, everybody working together. So my question really is, how are you all communicating? I know under the Department of Homeland Security, each of you has your individual lane, but how are we ensuring that we are sharing the information that is needed to actually take down these cartels? Who's responsible for that? I mean, I know ultimately it's the secretary, but who, interagency-wise, looks at what OFO is doing and what HSI knows and connecting those dots?
Thank you for the question, Senator. HSI's relationship with CBP runs very deep. We're communicating daily on these types of issues. We have over 7,000 special agents within the United States. We respond to every single seizure made by CBP at a port of entry, whether that's land, sea, or air. So we inherently have a lot of overlap in the things that we do, and we communicate.
Is there a person that oversees this, that connects the dots between the two, or is it just on case-by-case basis and working?
You wanted to, NTC?
I can certainly address that, and I think we have to look at it at the different levels of the organization. Certainly at our port levels, our port directors are responsible for ensuring those relationships, and we have great relationships with HSI and investigations. Again, we're having them respond to seizures, but also sharing the information and the intelligence and the analysis, the post-seizure analysis, and feeding that into our intelligence cycle. At our regional levels, certainly our directors field operations engage with their counterparts, the SACs, the special agents in charge of the divisions out in the field. But I think a really important piece for us at the national level is the cooperation that we have at our National Targeting Center, where HSI is co-located with us and works also not just within the interagency and all of the information, bringing in the intel cycle, the information, but also our foreign partners.
Are there any challenges that you have in working together collaboratively? Any roadblocks? I mean, it's interesting. Obviously, we created the Department of Homeland Security to ensure that we broke down those things, and just want to make sure that that's not occurring here.
I'm not aware of any significant challenges. I think more communication is better, and we're very engaged in that with them.
Absolutely. No, I appreciate that. The amount of fentanyl that has been seized has actually astonishing, and I want to commend you for the work that you continue to do. I am concerned, though, about what's not being seized, and want to dig in a little bit to that. I mean, we are seeing it show up in our streets, in our schools, in our communities, and it has killed more than 250,000 Americans since 2018. So can you give us some idea, about the networks within the United States that are helping to give fentanyl and opioids into these American communities? We were talking about the Chinese. Obviously, we have said this begins and ends with China. But can you tell me a little bit more, drug cartels, and then it gets here to the U.S. What's happening once it gets here to the U.S.?
Sure. My colleagues talked a little bit about the two largest cartels in Mexico, Sinaloa and the Jalisco cartels. They have tentacles into every single city in this country.
In this country?
In this country. And that's how they sell their drugs, and that's how they kill our citizens.
How do they find these people? Are they migrants? Are they gangs that we have here? How does that work?
There's transnational criminal organizations throughout this country that sell narcotics to those that are looking for narcotics. Yes, some use gangs to sell those, but gangs mostly work through extortion. They don't generally just sell drugs. But there's all sorts of criminal organizations operating throughout that are selling this.
Gosh. Tell me, are they gaining footholds? Are the drug cartels, the Mexican drug cartels, gaining footholds here in our country?
They definitely have a big influence here in our country.
Do you see that trend moving to where they have more and more influence?
I don't know that they have more and more influence. I know that we are committing more and more resources towards it with HSI every single year. We have our border enforcement security task forces, of which we have over 4,000 state and local officers that serve as a force multiplier for HSI to work narcotics investigations, to work human trafficking organizations, to work human smuggling networks as well. We have our fentanyl suppression teams, which Senator Murphy talked about earlier, that are tracking those overdose deaths. They're taking that pill, they're tracking that pill that was used in that overdose all the way back through Mexico, all the way back to the precursor chemical that was used to make it.
And how do your efforts differ here domestically versus what you're doing internationally?
We have 7,000 special agents in HSI. We have a huge overseas presence. As we look at this as a worldwide issue, partnerships are our main focus, not only domestically through our border enforcement security task forces, through our partnerships with CBP, but also internationally. This starts internationally. I spoke a little bit about my time heading our Mexico offices. That's just one of 90 overseas offices we have. And we take a lot of pride in foreign partnerships that we develop there. We have our transnational criminal investigative units in 14 countries overseas, where there's local investigators, local police officers that are assigned by the country that they work in there, that we vet, that we train, that we fund, and we work investigations of joint interest with them, not only in their home country, but in ours. And that's kind of what differentiates the way that we do things overseas.
Thank you. Appreciate it.